Alright guys, got kind of an interesting video for you, basically explaining the best way to eliminate really aggressive sandblasting. These wheels were powder coated previously and sandblasted with an incredibly aggressive media, and of course, I'm sure you guys have felt if you blast with aggressive media, the profile on the aluminum or the substrate you're powder coating is pretty crazy. As you can see, this one is not the roughest I've seen, but this one's pretty bad. They didn't chemically strip the powder. The powder was just sandblasted off, and that leaves you with a rough profile. So I'm going to show you how to coat and basically double coat it to hide that profile without getting your powder way too thick. Obviously these have been outgassed and masked, and now I'm just blowing them all off, making sure to get all the sand and stuff that might be in the little holes in the center. Motorcycle wheels have these holes. I actually don't even know what they're for. Just make sure you always blast them out. Always keep your mask in a container, by the way. It's supposed to do that. I never really did that until recently, but here we are. Be spraying with the Optiflex 2. It's got the Corona ring on it. I don't know why I left it on for this. Don't really need it on, but it's not hurting anything being on either. Once again, those holes in the center of these wheels, I tend to try to get as much powder in them as I can. I've seen lots of coaters who just kind of ignore those holes. And the problem when you're doing a colored wheel, this is of course KTM orange. If you do a colored wheel and you don't get powder in the center of that wheel or in these little notches on the spokes, it's very, very obvious. The center of the wheel, not so much, but those notches in the spokes, you need to make sure you get powder in. And you'll see me in the process of shooting these wheels, I make sure to go over those spots, not only on the first coat, but on the second coat, which obviously we'll be getting to here. Most of this job is pretty straightforward on the first coat. It's just a traditional powder coating job. Coverage is not as important. I mean, we're going to be second coating this. You want to get a good even first coat on, but even if you have some light spots, we're going to be taking care of those on the second coat with this same color. The point of this video is to show that you can kind of hide or at least mask, I guess, this aggressive profile that's left from using blast media that maybe is too aggressive for the overall process. You can see as I'm spraying around these wheels, I'll make sure to get in those grooves that I was mentioning. They're on the inside of the spokes, and then obviously the rear wheel has the holes in the center of the wheel that you want to make sure you get into. And I guess since I got you here, if you like powder coating videos and you want to see more of them, make sure you hit that like button. You can also hit the subscribe button and turn on all notifications so you get a heads up every time I post a new video. Oh, and here's more of me making sure to get inside those spokes. I wasn't sure if I recorded this actually on this first coat or made sure to get in the spokes really well, or at least recording of me doing that. But once again, it's very important to get inside these. I've seen way too many sets of wheels get powder coated and the inside of these spokes is just missed. If you're using a high-end gun, these aren't really an issue. On some of the lower-end guns, you're going to have an issue getting in to those, so I would suggest spraying those areas first and then going around and powder coating the wheel as though you hadn't done any work inside those spokes. That'll just make sure that you kind of get everything covered, or at least get good coverage, especially here on this first coat. And right here, I'm just showing, basically spraying powder into these holes, trying to make sure that I get decent coverage inside. I'll go through each one of these holes and spray into it. Once again, just kind of hoping that it gets everything. It seems to. Like I said, this is a Optiflex 2, so obviously a pretty good gun. With some of the lower end guns, you might have a hard time getting the tip in and getting the powder to disperse evenly in the way you want in there, especially without overcharging the powder on the outside of those holes. And then, like always, I just do a little haze coat at the end. Put the gun back. I always switch to program 2. That way I don't end up missing or forgetting to switch it when I go to do the second coat. I'm sure that you guys have done that, tried to spray a second coat and not changed it to, a second coat program, and gives you all sorts of problems. got these two wheels going in the little oven because obviously this is a pretty small job, all things considered. Gonna throw these in, and I think the oven's at 350 degrees for this. That's actually the cure temp for this powder anyways, so I think I already had it preset to that. And we'll set a timer for 3 minutes and check on them at the end of 3 minutes. Alright, and these actually look pretty much perfect. The 3-minute timer that I'm setting is not like a staple. Obviously it's going to depend on what you're coating. This is just what I set these for to make sure to check them. But once these are up, you can see that the powder started to flow out, and this area is called what I call matted out. That's where it looks kind of satin. It's right where the powder starts to go from powder to like a gel form. The outside of this is obviously thinner metal, so it gets a little hotter, it gels out a little bit more, but you don't want to get anywhere near a full cure. I think the temperature on these ends up being about 200 degrees when I pull them out. I'm checking them now. This is after they've been sitting for a little bit, but they still have, 160 degrees in the center there, 130 on the outside. That's a little too hot for me to recoat. Yeah, 180 in the center, 150, 160 on the outside. Still too hot to coat, so I check them again a couple minutes later. Once the temperatures drop down, I'm going to start spraying them again. I'll spray the smaller wheel because it's actually cooler now. I'm pretty much ready to spray. Made sure it's on program too. And then on the second coat, it's just pretty traditional. You're going to want to make sure you get good coverage. Obviously, you'll be able to see the kind of glossy areas. You want to make sure that those become matte, meaning you have enough powder on them to get rid of that kind of sheen that you're seeing. That'll ensure that you're actually getting good coverage on your second coat. But ultimately, the first and second coat are going to gel together entirely. That's why I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the first coat, you don't have to have like great coverage. You want to make sure that, you get good coverage if you can. But if you have any light spots or anything, you're definitely be covering up in this second coat. And the second coat is what's really allowing you to hide a lot of the profile left from the aggressive blasting media. I'm stoked to finally be doing more videos. If you guys have any suggestions for videos, make sure you leave them down in the comments, and let me know what you think of this video and this video style. I know it's kind of similar to other ones I've done, but I'm trying to figure out the best style for you guys. We'll shut the booth down, take a look, make sure we got good coverage once again, see no shiny spots, everything's matte, no gloss level of any kind, which is exactly what you want when you're trying to do especially a second coat. So threw these in the oven. Once they get up to the cure temperature, about 350 degrees. Once again, you don't start your timer until your parts are up to temperature. And now that they are, there's a couple minutes later after that first check, now they're right at 348, 350, and I go set the timer for 15 minutes since that's what the cure schedule calls for. And this is them after a full cure. As you can see, all the blast profile is completely hidden. Got the two coats on there, everything's glossy. No clear on these as the customer didn't request it. This powder doesn't actually even recommend a clear. But as you can see, nice glossy finish, no issues with the aggressive blast media. Once again, I appreciate each and every one of you. If you could give this video a like, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, that'd be great.